Connecting to the cloud server, Kevin. There goes the old American voice there from Zoom. How are you, pal?
I'm doing great, Joe. Here it's a holiday here in sunny Cali, Colombia. So I'm currently off and just chilling at home here. No work today.
Yeah, that will inform the basis of our interview. And I want to say a big welcome to my cousin, aka mi primo in Spanish, Kevin, for coming on the Wheel Talk Life podcast today. Now, some people might think, why is a guy living in Colombia with an Irish accent coming on your podcast? Is it just because he's your cousin and you want to talk about your grandma's hospitality whenever he's met her? Well, no, Kevin is actually a budding musician of his own. And welcome today, Kevin, to the We'll Talk Live podcast. If you want to introduce yourself, pal.
No, first, thanks very much, Joe, for inviting me on the show. We've been trying to set this up for a while.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, just a big hello to all the listeners out there, and
I'm
yeah,
about
looking forward to
to
talking about some aspects of my early student days living in Manchester and how I ended up here in Cali, Colombia. Bit of a crazy story, but here I am still after 14 years.
obviously your distinctive accent is going to inform the first couple of questions in terms of what was it like growing up musically and just in generally where you're from, because obviously you guys were born in Portadown, weren't you?
Yeah. No, I mean, I have a lot of my music background to thank from my family, like a lot of people. So
Sean?
when I was growing up, there was a lot. I'd say, the main artists we used to listen to as a family were definitely Bruce Springsteen, Michael Jackson, and then my mum and dad, stuff like, ABBA, the Eagles, things like that. And also, Motown was a big thing in my house as well. And then, of course, with my background, there would have been the more traditional Irish folk and traditional music as well. So yeah, and yeah, that's so I have to thank my brothers and sister, my mom and dad for my own interest and real passion for music. Because yeah, we're all massively into music, and in fact, few of my brothers have been in bands and stuff as well, and Connor, my oldest brother Connor, he's a writer as well. Well, so yeah, very, very musical background coming from Portadown.
Is there any other singers that I should perhaps know about that have come out of Portadown or really put Portadown on the map, or is it kind of really sort of an underground scene where people are just working hard at the craft, etc.
Yeah, I mean, there's not too many, global megastars coming out of Portadown in the music scene, but it always had a really, really good, Northern Ireland in general, always really used to, always great live music, really good selection. And things are changing a lot in the north, especially Belfast these days, absolutely booming. But in terms of, big, big bands coming out of Portadown, there wasn't no one of I think the listeners or the viewers would know very well. But music's has obviously been a massive part of growing up for people in Ireland, like any part of the world. So
Can you talk a bit about how socially, social situations and scenarios growing up has informed your taste and also your sound as a musician? Because distinctly straight away for me, I always see Irish people as very friendly, very forthcoming, always up for a party. They like a good beer, there's plenty of good Irish pubs out there and stuff. Can you like speak a bit about like observation techniques that you might not even techniques, you might have just taken little bits of stuff away, whether it be when you were younger, family gatherings that then inform songs that you've written. I know you wrote a song about the place that you grew up in, your Woodside, and also spoke about your brother Decky going down to Dublin town or something like that. I can't remember the lyric, but I distinctly remember something like that as well.
well, to be honest, I'd say, I really get into songwriting more in a big way when it came to Colombia. Although, I did start writing when I was 18, just when I was going to university. But yeah, most of the songs that I write are pretty biographical. Although you touched on a couple of songs there that I wrote during the pandemic, I remember what I did is I wrote a song for every member of my family. I just get into
Yeah,
this routine, obviously the lockdown, for most people was a really tough time, and obviously I had my moments, but for me as a musician, it was actually really important for me. I think it was, having a lot more free time in my hands. I was able to really, do a lot more, focus a lot more, do a lot more songwriting, and also doing a lot more of the, I'd never done Instagram or Facebook Live, so that was
yeah,
one thing I actually really got into, and that was I was doing this sort of every week. I was doing, different decades, different artists and
I
whatever, and
remember that.
I was learning many songs every week. So yeah, during that time, I guess there were more sort of about sort of family and upbringing, but I tend to sort of, because obviously I'm living in Colombia these days, it's a lot more about what's happening around me in Colombia and things like that. But I'd say definitely the sound, I'd say I've definitely got a bit of a, that sort of Irish folk sound. And particularly one of my favorite artists is Christy Moore. He's probably the number one singer songwriter in Ireland, and he's got quite a big influence on me. Um, but it's, there's a lot of artists that I would definitely say that have really made me who I am in terms of my inspiration and my sound. Massively into sort of classic rock from the 60s and 70s, like the massive Beatles head. Well, the two bands I really first got into music were the Beatles and Oasis. But I mean, stuff, like Rolling Stones, massive fan of the Rolling Stones. And yeah, I just really, love anything from soul music to reggae, um, hip hop. I'm
Yeah,
quite a varied taste, but I'd say generally in terms of what I write, it's more sort of rock, blues, folk based.
yeah, brilliant. And just listening to you speak there, how could I forget about the Facebook Lives? Because I was even interacting on them. That was a great time, proper buzzing.
There were strange times, but also some good. Like it was very very impactful. Those sessions, I still remember them quite fondly.
Yeah, do you want to talk? That weren't even a question on the list, but I feel like it's important. Another avenue we could go down before talking about your uni days in Manchester. So, for context, Kevin did some Facebook Lives during lockdown, didn't he? And it was a really sort of unifying thing, which is what music can often be. And it brought people from different backgrounds together. I ended up interacting with a lot of people who you went to university with on the lives, and I didn't even know who they were. And yeah, it was great. What gave you the idea to start doing Facebook and Instagram lives around that time? Boredom or
It was just one of those things where I saw other people, I guess, doing the same thing, and it became obviously, since it began, you've had Instagram Live. Facebook Lives weren't that popular, but they became a big thing during the lockdown. And for me, it was just a way to connect with people. And I remember in the first show, I was quite nervous because I'd never really done. Obviously, I'd performed many times before, live, in bars and concerts and whatever, but I never in front of a camera. It was something a bit different. I'd done
yeah,
music videos even before that, but never performed in front of a camera. Um, but it was really, as I say, I've got some great memories of that because if you think back, obviously no one was going out. So for a lot of people, that was like they were even telling me, can't wait, only a few days to go until the live. And then when I did the Facebook Live, yeah, the interaction was great, and it was just a really got so many beautiful comments. And as you said, you were interacting with people, and it's just something a period of life. I just don't think it's going to be ever recreated again. And despite the difficulties of being at home, I live by myself, so just I was at home most of the
yeah.
time of that. That was one of the periods that I actually have quite a lot of positive memories about. So yeah, I was one of the few lucky people where the lockdown actually helped me in a lot of different respects.
And obviously, you mentioned about doing songs from different decades throughout the weeks. Did you have to like put a lot of preparation into learning these songs, or did you know them already?
No, really did, Joe. And I think that's another reason why I think my singing got a lot better was just because I had so many different, I was really putting myself out of my comfort zone because I was playing stuff, as random as ABBA to stuff from the 90s. I remember I did this 90s pop live. I was doing stuff even by like Spice Girls and Britney Spears. I was really just trying everything. People, oh, what about doing this as a theme next week? I was okay, I'll try that. I remember I did the 90s one. I actually did that in I did two different 90s Facebook lives. One was on sort of 90s rock, and another one we'll do 90s pop. And then, for anyone that doesn't really know in terms of playing the guitar and singing, you have a thing called a capo, which that really adjusts your voice. So you
Yeah.
need to find the key that you can sing in as well. So technically, I think I became a lot more of an accomplished singer from that. And I think I also just got a lot more confidence performing in front of a camera before. Sorry, before, which I didn't have that experience.
And I even remember you even did a bit of Simpler Red for me, didn't you? Because I've got a guilty pleasure to Simpler Red, bit of Fairground or Money's Too
No, I
Tight.
did. I think it was Money Too Tight to Mention or something, or was what it wasn't. It was anyway. It was not. It was not Fairground or
Oh,
the one you mentioned. It was not that one.
Money's Too Tight to mention. That's certainly the case here in Paddy, and let me tell you, pal. But
I think most places these days, Joe. Oh.
yeah, but just that was a bit of something that came into my head there just to speak about because I felt like that's important to speak about the preparation behind, what musicians do with the tunes. Now I want to go a bit back to your university days, those hedonistic days where you did university in Manchester and how that perhaps informed your experiences as well. Talk about that for me, please, and what you studied, etc.
Yeah, I mean Manchester. What a few years I had there. I mean that was really. I've been very, very lucky in life, and there's a few big decisions I've made, and luckily they've just gone my way. And one of those ones was choosing Manchester. I've never even been to Manchester, um, and for whatever reason, at that age, I had no intentions of studying in Ireland. I was either going to Manchester or Liverpool. So and I basically just chose Manchester because I was a Manchester United fan and I was really into, Manchester music, Oasis, Stone Roses, Smiths, all of that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Manchester. So it was literally like that. It wasn't no sort of big thing where I had to, did a lot of research. Was it going to be the best university? So no, I ended up studying Spanish, which was Spanish and cinema really. By the end, I did six modules. For example, my final year, four of them were linguistic, language based, and then two cinema. So I did sort of majored in Spanish language, and then sort of a minor in cinema as well. So that took me to, yeah, I had 4 years in Manchester because I failed the first year, Joe, doing too much partying. So you're talking about the hedonistic days. I had my hedonistic days in Manchester for sure. So failed the first year, and then also spent a year living in Seville, which was absolutely incredible. So I'd say that sort of, before coming to Colombia, that sort of made me have quite an interesting mixture of sort of music that I was surrounded to, the sort of Manchester scene, of which yourselves got an incredible independent music scene. And then when I was living in Seville, I got introduced to flamenco music, even bought myself a flamenco guitar. So that was another thing that I was sort of getting into. Started writing songs in Spanish as well. So I'd say I definitely have quite a bit to get to owe to Manchester and Seville before actually coming to Cali and really working on a bit sort of more seriously and taking my music a bit more, yeah, having a bit more focus to my music. But definitely had my background playing obviously as well in Manchester and Seville before I came to Cali.
I totally agree. Like going out of your comfort zone. Obviously, I never lived in Manchester when I was at university, but going to all these gigs at Manchester Academy, seeing the people who you perhaps dress differently, and all the different types of characters. It's such a vibrant city, and would you say stepping out your comfort zone? You said you had no intentions of staying in Ireland. Would you say stepping out your comfort zone has helped develop you as a person and also a musician in terms of that initial decision?
Absolutely, Joe. I think that's just that for whatever reason, I've just always been a bit like that. I like to sort of go against, the crowd, or I was always a bit rebellious at school, and getting in trouble. I don't like to just do the sort of the normal standard things, which is I
I
guess
mean,
I like to get myself out of my comfort zone, which is obviously why I didn't know anyone before going to Manchester, then lived in Seville, and then coming to Cali. I'd never even been to Latin America before. So I think there's definitely part of my character and personality that is just naturally like that, based on my upbringing and whatever. But I do think as well, like like anything in life, a lot of it just depends on the mindset that you and the decision. If you fully support yourself and your decision, um, I think there's a better chance that things are going to work out. And yeah, I just sort of always, yeah, sort of go with my instinct generally. And for I don't know how the hell I ended up living in Cali for 14 odd years, but that's what's happened. And I do think, of course, whenever you go anywhere, particularly by yourself, and you have to sort of start your own life and make your own friends and stuff, of course, that's going to have a very positive, a lot of makes a lot of positive changes to your life and personality. Number one, I think for me, it just made me appreciate so much more my family, um, my culture, where I'm from, my identity, all my upbringing that I had. And number two, obviously, you have to sort of become more outgoing and more adventurous and more confident, builds confidence. And this gives you, it gives you a lot more of a different outlook on life. For example, just to give people a bit of a sort of cultural background in Northern Ireland. Luckily, obviously, things have changed massively the last sort of 25
yeah,
years. And whenever I was a teenager, it was sort of coming to the end of the troubles. But I mean, for example, it was so segregated. You had just
yeah,
Catholic and Protestant neighborhoods. So there wasn't really a sort of global outlook. You're very just much based on
yeah,
this sort of little microcosm, this part of the world called Northern Ireland. So I was lucky enough when I was 16, in fact. I did a cross community 5 week summer camp type thing in Kansas, USA. That was the first period where I think I started to sort of open my mind and realize that there's a lot more beyond Portadown, basically.
yeah,
And I think actually, yeah, who knows? But I think probably without that experience of going to to spend the summer camp those 5 weeks in Kansas, then I probably wouldn't have gone to live in Manchester. Who knows? So
yeah.
I think you start to have a bit more of a global outlook and a lot more you appreciate culture a lot more. And I have a real great passion apart from sort of music and sport. I just love traveling and getting to know other cultures and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm really, really, really lucky and very thankful and appreciative that I've had this opportunity because most people wouldn't can only dream of doing something like this, and uh, thank I thank my lucky stars every day that things have worked out and I have a really good life that I love here in Cali.
100%. And that's something I agree with myself because, as you know from the discussions that we have on WhatsApp and the various deep, meaningful conversations that I subject to you when I'm searching for things in my life, it definitely feels like I'm sort of in that explorationary period in my life as well, in terms of, like I said to you before, I've now got to a stage with my friends my own age where I should have been doing all the stuff what what I should have been doing at 18, but I'm doing it like now. If that makes sense, that probably is because I went to university in Manchester and got the opportunity to go to all these gigs and boxing events. And people might not realize the significance of a boxing event or a gig, but it's not actually about that, is it? It's about the people that you meet there, the experiences that you gain. That's why I love going to festivals and that, because you realize the world is just a bit of a mad place, and if you go and explore it, it can be a beautiful thing. And that's something that you've done with Cali. If you want to transition into,
No, yeah, I mean, it's sort of hard to explain. Obviously, this is my home. I've been living here for so long, but there's still some aspect that I sort of feel like I'm still on holiday. I know that's quite hard to sort of
really,
comprehend, but thanks because because it's so different, and to obviously Portadown or living in Manchester. It's just this tropical city. The sort of the salsa music, the sunshine, the nature, the mountains. It's just I still feel it still feels quite exciting living here. It's not that normally if you live in somewhere for quite a while, it's home. But Cali, I still feel that it's almost as if that sort of the magic of Cali has never sort of really gone away since I got here. Luckily.
What informed your decision to actually why Colombia? Keep it clean. It weren't for Eskimos to do. Hey, we know it says something for that, but it certainly is a place of culture. I know some of the stories that you tell me. Uh, with some of the political things that are going off in Colombia, it can be an interesting place. Best not to go into that because I've got a nervous laughter and start laughing in serious situations, and it's clearly not funny. Anybody, being shot at or whatever, but you know what I mean. It's certainly a very interesting place, isn't it, to live? And I bet that informs your
It's
experience.
absolutely amazing, Joe, and it has such a bad rap. I'd say the two countries that I visited that I think are just the most amazing places I've ever visited are definitely both Colombia and Mexico, and they have obviously the really bad reputation for drug trafficking, and people just think it's a war zone, and it just couldn't be so farther from the truth. The people are absolutely like for me, just the best thing about Colombia is just the people, and I've just been so fortunate. Um, for the people that I've met in Cali, and I'm not just talking about acquaintances or people that you sort of have. I've got so many like really proper mates that I've grown really strong bonds with, and I think probably as well, whenever you live away so far away from home, friendship does take on a deeper meaning. I do think. So that for me is that's the reason more than anything why I've ended up staying here for so long. And just nature wise, it's just absolutely stunning. For example, Colombia is the second most biodiverse country in the world after Brazil. For
Wow.
example, it's got the number one um, species of birds in the world. It's got the Amazon, it's got different beaches, it's got snow-capped mountains. It's just got everything really. So nature was definitely a draw for me before coming to live in Latin America. Two places I really wanted to visit was the Amazon and the Galapagos Islands. And I've been to the Amazon 6 times, in fact, and the Galapagos. There was one summer I actually did both. I did the Amazon and the Galapagos. So nature was definitely, as I said, a big part of that. And then, well, in terms of how it actually came around, I was just studying in Manchester, and it was just this one, I guess, a moment of fate. I just saw sort of a sign on the wall in my faculty saying, would you like to teach English in Latin America? Working for the British Council. I was like, well, at that stage, I didn't even know what I was going to do. I was pretty sure because I had this incredible year living in Cali. Sorry, in Sevilla before I went to Cali. I absolutely loved Seville. Definitely the best
Yeah.
city I've lived outside of Cali. So I always thought that I was just going to graduate and maybe go and teach English in
Yeah.
Seville. That's what I was thinking. So I just sort of keep my options open. And then yeah, basically did all the I did all the application process. I had two different rounds. One I just had to sort of see if I made the initial cut, and then I actually had to choose three countries, the top three. And I went number one, Colombia, number two was Chile, number three was Ecuador. And
Brilliant.
then I basically told me to choose then. Okay, so we're going to put you in Colombia. Choose the city you'd like to live in. And I chose. I was looking at Cali. It's like okay, um, looks stunningly beautiful in terms of nature. It's sunny, the sort of salsa vibe. It's close to the Pacific coast, and it's got the most beautiful women. So I was like, right, I'm going to Cali, and that's how I ended up in Cali. So initially, I was just working for 1 year at a university, and then a few days basically before leaving, I applied for a job at a school, which is where I'm at now, like a bilingual school. And that school's it's been one of the best, by far and away the best job I've ever had. I'm so grateful for everything the school's given to me, friends and just a really good job, and have a great relationship with the students. So that's my sort of day to day thing that I do is just as a teacher. I also organize a culture and language exchange um, as well. So that's what I do on the side to sort of help me fund um, my music, basically. And obviously I do my gigs on the side and just make music, recording. Um, so yeah, that's sort of in a nutshell, sort of what sort of what keeps me active. And apart from that, yeah, just I've got a, I play football every Friday. I've got a great group of friends from football, and the music scene here is great. I'm really into my sport as well. Apart from football, I play tennis, a cycle as well. I mean, some of the places here we go to cycle in the mountains are just unbelievable. It's just like something out of a movie, you know what I mean? Um, so Colombia has a bad rap, but it's an absolute paradise in so many aspects. Of course, don't get me wrong, there are dodgy spots in Cali and Colombia, but they're mainly really in the cities. You know, Cali
Yeah,
has its hot spots, Medellin, Bogota, and Cartagena. Outside of those four areas, and then there are some areas that are still sort of under
yeah,
control in the sort of jungles, under control of paramilitaries or guerrillas. Um, Other than that, generally it's totally safe. And in Cali, as long as you sort of know where you're going, you're totally grand. But yeah, I mean the
yeah,
security is definitely an issue, and it's a very corrupt country. But other than that, I mean, it's just I absolutely just love living here, and I could not recommend Colombia more as as a travel destination. You know, my mum and dad have come over a couple of times. A few of my brothers have come over. A number of mates have come over as well, and they've just always had an amazing time. So if anyone's thinking or traveling to Latin America, put Colombia at the top of your list. And Mexico as well. I've been to Mexico 4 times. That's my second favorite country out of all the places I visit in Latin America.
yeah, for sure. Hopefully, I could even get over there one time. You never know. Jamming with you in one of the Ruby Tuesday nights or whatever, and that's a good way to segue into the next section of the podcast episode. The music scene, as you mentioned in Cali, and also some of the tracks and music videos that you have done, and the best work and the reasons behind the work and music that you produced.
Yeah, I mean, Cali, it's, I think, out of all of the cities, right? I'd say Bogota, as the capital, obviously has much more happening in terms of music and art. Medellin is a close second. Cali, but Cali has a really interesting mix of different music. For example, it just finished today. There's this Afro-Colombian music festival called Petronio. Petronio Alvarez was this very important musician for the Pacific region. So it's absolutely amazing, the music. So it's a lot based on marimba and percussion. So marimba is like wooden xylophone type thing, used a lot in African music. So you've got the African influence. You've also got the influence of sort of more the Andean music from the Andes, people that live in the more rural areas. But Cali's just known for salsa. Cali is seen as
Yeah,
one of the most important cities in the world, probably after New York, Puerto Rico. Cali's like, it's number one for salsa probably in the world. So I mean, there's always a lot of events. They're maybe not the best publicized, but there's loads going on. I mean, I go to see the Philharmonic Orchestra sometimes. There's different festivals, jazz festivals, blues festivals. So there's always a lot happening. And for example, just mentioned blues. Blues is quite a big thing in Cali, which is interesting. I mean, two of the guys I used to be in a band. I have one of the three projects I have is a Celtic music group, and I used to play in a band with sort of these two guys called the Cali Blues Brothers, guy from Argentina and a guy from Cali, and they have been. There's this blues night, this blues jam that's been happening basically every Thursday night since like 2016. There's also a jazz live jazz Latin jazz jam pretty close to where I live as well. So yeah, it's really interesting the mix of music that you have, and then of course you got rock bars, you got the typical places that you get back home, the sort of more commercial music, electronic, etc., etc. But for me, yeah, like it's been really a big inspiration for what I write these days, particularly sort of socio-politically. For example, the last song that I released, last video I did, was a take on last year in Colombia there was a period there was these national strikes and the sort of the country that for the last 2 years not so bad this year, but there was a lot of stuff happening post COVID. So I wrote a sort of socio-political song um, based on my experience and my sort of interpretation of what was going on in Colombia. A lot of it was just to do with the corruption, etc., etc., and the violence. Sorry about the music here in the background. Sorry, the sound in the background. There's a car here just
I
outside.
can't
Sorry.
hear anything, don't worry. It's all right.
Okay. So yeah, for example, yeah, the last music is called Punk Rock and Blues, and I even
Yeah,
got there was this. I know you really enjoyed it. You told me to mention it in the interview. So the song I did with this Colombia version, the sort of Colombian Snoop Dogg, the guy basically just he just one of these guys. A lot of people what they do is they make money at the traffic lights here. So he's one of these guys. He just washes car windscreens, and then one day someone just said, "Look, that guy looks almost like Snoop Dogg." And so what he's been so the director of my music video knew him, and he's like, "Do you want to get him involved in the video?" I was like, "That sounds great. That sounds great, crack. Let's get him involved." And since then, actually, I don't know if you, I actually totally forgot to send it to you, but they did stories about him in the sort of the Daily Mirror, the Sun, and the Daily Mail recently. So the sort of this what happened, this guy's
it's
sort of
all
become
you.
a real viral sensation, and yeah, I did a music video with him. Other than that, for example, the next song that I'm going to be releasing very soon is a song called Pacific Way. It's based on a trip. Well, actually, I've been a number of times to the Pacific region of Colombia. It's just absolutely stunning. More or less exactly a year ago, I went to see I did some whale watching tour, so to see the whales, who are doing their migrating or whatever in this time of the year. Saw some amazing sort of beaches and waterfalls and jungle and things like that. So I wrote this song called Pacific Way, which is just based all about that. So it's got a little bit of a Pacific vibe to it. So yeah, try and incorporate as much of my daily life as possible. And Colombia is obviously a big part of that, living here, and obviously just personal relationships that I have and interactions that people that I meet. But yeah, generally my music's all very biographical, and generally I try and sort of yeah, there has to be sort of some sort of meaning, powerful meaning, inspire people, depending on the type of song. Maybe I want something that's a bit more sort of just um, a bit more of a fast song, get people singing. For example, Punk Rock and Blues is like that. The new single is a bit more chilled. That's something that maybe you'd really enjoy listening to if you're going on a road trip or something like that. Or people just said to me, it's like if you're on the beach, it's just got that really um, chilled vibe to it as well. So I don't have one sort of style. I guess it just depends on where I'm at in life in that particular day, that particular moment. But I do, as I say, I'm surrounded by so many things to be inspired by here living.
Yeah, for sure, and it certainly seems that way, particularly in your music videos as well. As you know, I particularly enjoy watching some of the music videos you do have and the people you get on. There's some very, attractive actors that do take part in the, you know what
They
I'm saying?
definitely are, Joe. Definitely, that's one of the perks. One of the
Act-
perks.
Actresses, should I say actresses? Wrong choice of word. Not
I don't even know these days if you could say is it actress or actor. I've seen both, especially in The Guardian. So let's just say
yeah.
actors or actresses.
Not that there's anything wrong with actors as well, but I, prefer actresses personally. What do you call it? But yeah, that's another thing we can talk about as well. The music videos that you do and the production that goes behind them.
Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah, I've done a number of music videos now. The first I released my first music video actually during lockdown. So that's why I was saying, at the start of the show that lockdown in 2020 was actually quite an important year for me as a musician because it was the first time I actually started, released my music video and first I released two music videos and two singles that first year in 2020, and it really sort of made me more focused, start making me. And I guess whenever you get your music out there, then you get the feedback, and it was for me. It was just whenever I guess like anyone, you're a little bit, how was this going to get, how well is it going to be received? But the feedback that I got just really, really, really inspired me so much from people all around. People's obviously your friends and family, but other people that you don't know, just
Yeah,
from all different
great.
parts of the world, and they'll write to you, and it's just like it really had such an impact on me. So it just depends on it just depends on, I guess, on the project. You know, obviously not every single song I can do. I'm going to do a music video, but no, it's just more. Obviously, I'm an independent artist, so I have to plan and pay for that myself, obviously, for out of my own pocket. But for me,
Well,
I absolutely love doing the music videos. So generally, how it's worked is with this guy, Christian Jimenez. He's an absolutely fantastic. He's a director. He's a photographer. He does the editing. You know, does all the logistics. He's does everything basically. So I generally work with him. We've got a fantastic relationship. We sort of call each other Ferguson and Ronaldo. You know, we've got that. So we just have a really, really good working relationship. So I'll always contact him if I need sort of, you know, anything to do with any sort of audio visual stuff or photography stuff. Because unfortunately, just well, it's not unfortunate. It's just the way it is nowadays. You know, as an artist, you have to have good quality productions, the image, you know, good photography, you know, good. If you know, just on that one chance that you might be lucky and someone notices, you need to have a good portfolio. So you need to build that up.
yeah,
So that's really what I've been working hard at the last few years. You know, the last few years I've had five five music videos, five singles. I'm just about to release one soon. But my plan is between now and the end of the year to do well that the new single plus another one, and I also want to do an acoustic album. So I've got quite a lot to do in the next 4 months. Quite ambitious, but that's my plans anyway. So generally the way it is, as I said, I work with Christian. We just get a sort of general draft of initial ideas. I'll give him an analysis of what the song is about, and we just generally just get planning. And as I say, he just got a fantastic artistic eye for things. But I'm hoping that yeah, with the new single, I really think it's the best song to date. Even though the last release, Punk Rock and Blues, was just unbelievable, the response.
I totally
I
agree.
mean, there was like I had over 50 articles published all over in 13 different countries, you know, places from in Guatemala, USA, Spain, you know, all over. It was just unbelievable. You know, the response that I got. You know, did a number of radio shows that people just inviting me on the show. So if I can get anything like that for the new song, I'm going to be absolutely delighted. But I do think this. I'm working with a different producer this time. This guy called Carlos Benedetti. He's a producer and he's a musician. So the good thing is I'm working with a producer who also makes music
Wow,
himself. So he's done most of the work. I mean, obviously I came to him with the song, with the concept, and he's made it what it is. But yeah, so basically I have my team in place. So as I said, I've got Christian, the audio visual stuff, and then I've got my producer. Um, and he's just pretty much, you know, a good friend of mine as well. So having that sort of team together, I'm also as well from a few months ago, I've been working with an independent agency in Bogota that have sort of helped me trying to organize my music, you know, on all the different platforms, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so
brilliant.
yeah, but it's been positive, you know, good progress making this year. But I know I've still quite a bit to do between now and the end of the year. Um, so yeah, man, that's pretty much a summary of what's been happening the last 12 months or even last couple of years. I'm very, very excited about what's coming, you know.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a, you know, good way to sort of segue into the final part because we both know that you've got some big things coming up, and I know you're also a busy man and you've got something on shortly as well. So I don't want to keep you too long, but finally, I just want to say thank you for coming on and sort of what's the hopes for the future as a musician and also as well as a human being because I feel that's important and all to talk about that.
Well, first question is the most important thing. What are my plans as a human being? And very simply, Joe, just try and be as happy. You know, it sounds a bit cliche. Just try and be happy, man. Just try and get up
Yeah,
every day and try and make every day as best as you can. You know,
yeah,
as simple as that. Sort of the last 12 months have been quite a sort of bit of a. We were talking about this last week. You know, been really getting into a period, I think, of change and just trying to appreciate life as much as you can. We get into sort of a bit more sort of meditation, spirituality, writing. So that's just in general, just try and live every day and enjoy it, man. And not think too far ahead. But obviously, as a musician, I think for me at the minute, it's just trying to get a catalog of music that I'm proud of. You know what I mean? That for me is the most important thing. Is I want to. Okay, of course, I'm still going to do my gigs. For example, literally in about 20 minutes, I'm going to be practicing for a show that I got on Friday. So I'm obviously still going to do my gigs, and always love performing. But for me at the minute, my focus is having a much greater catalog of music, and more than anything, doing it for myself, man. You know, to be able to say, in 10, 20 years, oh, look, look at all those songs I've written. And, obviously if anything happens and if someone someday listens to one of my songs and wants to make it and contacts me and, of course, the dream, I think, of any artist, you'd love to get signed and you'd love to be touring and doing all of that. But for me, it's just to basically get my music down and be proud of that aspect and keep doing my gigs and enjoying it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think I've sort of changed my outlook and changed my expectations slightly. I think before I was all about, trying to sort of become sort of trying to get more sort of what's the word, recognize and sort of really trying to build a profile and stuff like that. And it's like, no, that's not really the way to go. You should be doing it for yourself. And I think whenever you work hard and just keep doing it for yourself, I think you have a better chance of things coming naturally rather than I really, really, really want this. So I'm happy just, you know, live trying to enjoy and live a balanced life, socially with the sport that I've told you I love into and with my music. And yeah, hopefully, yeah, just be able to look back in a number of years and be very proud of having a big, quite a catalog of music that I've written, and that for me would be a great achievement in itself.
100%, Kevin, and I've got no doubt that that will occur because of the passion that you have for music and also exploring life as well. Um, yeah, it's been absolutely great to speak to you. Just as a quick insight before we start recording and speak afterwards, I hadn't even prepared any questions for this interview because I thought let's go for an organic sort of style. And we've been going 40 minutes, so I really appreciate your time, pal. And I'm sure we'll have many more deep and meaningful conversations on WhatsApp, usually instigated by me as I constantly search for this man's search for meaning in this mad earth that we're living on, pal. But yeah, thank you very much.
Now, Joe, I've absolutely really, really loved being on the show, and yeah, definitely love to come back on again. Maybe before the end of the year, I want to sort of get these releases out there and maybe hopefully talk about some of the good response to it. And yeah, if there's everything else, yeah, want to get me on the show to talk about, I'd be more than willing. Not just the music scene in here in Cali. So thanks a million, and yeah, hope the viewers and the listeners have enjoyed our last 40 minutes conversation. It's been a fantastic catching up with you as always, and yeah, of course we'll keep our conversations and chats going on WhatsApp of all the time.
Nice one, Kev, to sign off. Up the hoops, up the stalks, and up the claret.
I agree with all that. I agree with all that, Joe. I won't refuse any of that you just said.
Good man. Cheers, Kev.
All right, Joe. Take care, man. Thanks very much.